What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome back. The Inside Wisconsin podcast here on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Trevor Thomas, John Anderson, the first guest on Inside Wisconsin Sports on the radio. A new radio gig launched this week, and I got a text over the weekend that said, am I guest number one or am I guest number one?
I just invited myself on.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was perfect. Yeah, I mean, landed. Well, first off, and I told you this, John, I owe so much of this to you. If you don't say yes to do the podcast, then this opportunity with the fan in Milwaukee and eventually WNFL doesn't happen. So myself and a fella by the name of Josh Albrecht launched Inside Wisconsin Sports every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 6 to 9 on what's going to be statewide. It's insane. So thanks for coming on the show and thanks for making all this happen, man.
Yeah, I sent. Am I going to be guest number one or will I be guest number one? I was going to send it again to you. And the other option is I could be guest number one when it came through. That's awesome. And then the other thing I thought of is, okay, most good agents get 10%. And so we hadn't really discussed that.
Okay, right.
Yet. And I eventually at one point I got an agent down to 7%. So there's wiggle room if you want to talk about this. But anyway, no, I'm thrilled for you. Good for you. What I really like is that it means that you have this steady job and there's no way you're going to ask me to do this before noon anymore. And I'm like, okay, that's right. Great. Except for today. So this is from a purely selfish standpoint is this is great. No more 9 a.m.s. Hey, I got so-and-so at 9. Can you do that? And I always say the same thing, right? Sure. Right after I get done with my paper route, I'll come on in. This will be fantastic.
It was great.
I can't wait. And, and you can always tell when we tape in the morning because right now I'm talking regular, and if it's in the morning too much, I sound like this. And I sound like a 6-pack a day smoker. And so that'll be great. But good for you. I'm thrilled for you. I'm really thrilled for you and that you get to have the everyday grind and I do not.
How this has changed, eh?
I wish you great success. My God, Josh, I pity that poor guy. Because as I said on the show, somebody's gonna have to rein your ass in because you're just gonna get, at least the Packers now will only be 16-1 in your world when we come through, but it'll be, and then when you start getting worried about them, that's my favorite part too, right? You go from optimistic to panic in no time.
Yeah.
There's he's going to have to get used to a lot of neuroses. And then obviously he's going to need some athletic tape and Advil because I'm sure even just sitting in a microphone, you're going to break something. You're going to have some catastrophic injury. Going to be a show. What's worse now, and I don't want to get too much in your family business, but it's wearing off. Now Amanda's getting hurt. Seriously. First you passed it off to the boys. And I just need you to, I don't care if you get hurt, but take care of your family, man.
Damn right. I agree with that. No kidding. Yeah. My wife had appendix burst. It was absolutely crazy. We almost lost her. It was the scariest day of my life. But yeah, when we started this show, you were going to bed at 4 a.m. And now 5 years into this, I'm getting up at 4 a.m. So that's,
by the way, and the difference is, right, you're an early riser, so you're a go-getter. And people think, woohoo, look at that guy. And if you go to bed at 4 a.m., they're like, wow, that guy is a bum. He needs to, what kind of person stays up that late? So it's crazy how, one going down at 4 and one getting up at 4, the perception is so different,
Yeah, for sure.
But people like you, wait till I come home and start mowing my lawn at 3 o'clock or shoveling my driveway. And you're like, what the hell is going on up there? And I'm like, now you know how I feel on Saturday morning when you take your chainsaw out and you decide you're going to, clear cut the back of your property.
And about 5 years ago when we started this, you and I put together a list of the people that we were hoping to chase down at some point on the podcast. And high on that list was today's guest. It finally happened. Wisconsin's own Frank Caliendo.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaines Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, and North Star Mohican Casino Resort.
The last time I saw John was, and do you remember, John?
We've met once, and we were in the workout room at the Amarana Hotel in Burbank.
And you might have the heaviest feet on a run I've ever heard. It's like a Clydesdale where you step and pull, like they teach you to do, the running exercises. Like he was running next to me and I heard, I was like, am I running wrong? Because I kind of hobble. I have a bad knee. but when you were going, I was like, you're like a machine. What are you, the Terminator?
The first time you see that kind of athleticism up close, it can be intimidating. I understand.
Oh, we're
But,
definitely
so
using that.
that's what the great ones look like. Now I know how to measure that.
Yeah. That's I got no comeback for that.
That was amazing.
I was trying to think of I was gonna go Kilborn. I was like, oh yeah. Look at the strides on this guy. Oh, big moves.
Yeah, that's
That's fun. Oh, the cheeks already hurt. It's
I
early.
would like to think my sure disdain for running comes through, but it's the only thing I can do. So I tried lifting weights once, but I don't know if you've picked them up. They're very heavy. I'm not a fan of that at all.
That's awesome.
Whether it's you or we've had Pete Lee and some different people on. When I worked on the Wipeout show, the appreciation I got for people, not who are funny, but who are comedians. The difference between a guy who can say something funny about a guy who falls on a banana peel as opposed to the guy who can write just 10 jokes about a banana. Like, there's a huge difference in those things. And I came to really respect, whether it was John Henson or guys that kind of wrote comedy for that program, how different, what a craft that is. Because everybody knows somebody who's funny, right? Everybody knows that guy.
Right.
But to really be a comedian, to come up with bits or to do that is extraordinary to watch people like you work.
Well, what I would do is just give the banana a voice. Doesn't that banana?
Yeah.
Wow. I think, what would that banana sound like if Jeff Goldblum were playing that banana?
Oh.
Ooh, yes, of course. Am I scared? No, I'm just yellow. I can cause you to slip. How? By peeling myself and throwing myself in front of you. Super Mario would use me from his go-kart, and you might wipe out and he would take first place. But look out, oh no. The guy playing the lightning is the one who's going to destroy everyone. And who's doing that? Morgan Freeman playing lightning. It's never been
This is
better
going to
than
go
that.
so sideways. I can't wait.
I don't even know if I'm gonna. I don't even want to talk. I just want to listen to that the whole
But do you
time.
like how the like for the purpose of getting to the bit quickly, I just have the character announce their own name to go, yes, I'm Morgan Freeman and I'm lightning. What? Okay.
It takes out any ambiguity. Forget it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, you went to see that there. Now I'm gonna have go old school and have George W. Bush play you. Takes out the amphibiousness.
That'd be great. I can throw it in the hand. I am amphibious. That would be terrific.
Amphibiuity is the ability to take it, Donald. Well, there's a lot of people talking about people on land and sea, and they did great jobs. They did tremendous jobs. Joe, Obama comes in. Let me be clear. Let's just move on.
We already started recording and just didn't start the show. So some of this is going to be from when we actually did the introduction. That's Frank Caliendo, comedian. Wow. Frank Caliendo. This will not be a surprise to you. Frank, thanks for being on the Inside Wisconsin podcast. I will be doing a lot of this. I'm going to laugh and cough, and this is going to be great. Thanks for doing the show, man.
No, that's great. But stay on mic. People love to hear phlegm come up a little bit. It's part of the experience, right?
Right. We could use you to be not too funny, because Trevor then will fall off the chair, and then we're going to have medical bills and require emergency personnel. He breaks easy. He looks like a big guy, but he's made of balsa wood.
Well, yeah, hey, well, check the comments in some of my posts. I'm not funny at all. Don't worry about it. I have zero ability to have any humor, and we will use Trevor as a Pinewood Derby car. How about that?
That'll be perfect. Yeah, I get that too. I get a lot of people that tell me I know nothing about sports, so I just try to go on. How does somebody get in your line of work? Like, where does this thing start?
You're going to think this is a joke. You're going to think this is not real, but I wanted to be a Sports Center anchor. That's probably what I really wanted to do. I didn't have the retention of words like right now, but I didn't have the ability to remember, I don't the recall for plays and stuff like that, which John, a fellow by the name of John Walsh, who was over there. He
right.
Basically, Trevor, do you know who he is? He was the creator I believe, or one of the creators, if not
Yeah.
the creator of Life. No, of Sports Center.
Sports Center, yeah.
And he looked like Santa Claus, and you knew that he didn't care about that, or he actually welcomed that because he had a coffee cup that was in front of him that I look like Santa Claus, or I don't look like Santa Claus, I am Santa, something like that. So, but in terms of, that's when I realized I could never be a Sports Center anchor. I was talking to him. He's like, "Well, you could learn a lot of stuff." I'm like, "There's no, it's too late." But I went to school at University of Wisconsin Milwaukee for broadcast journalism. And Sports Center, as I transferred to University of Wisconsin Parkside, but as I was going to school at Parkside, probably the biggest two shows were Seinfeld was on Thursday nights, and Sunday was the big show, which is Sports Center, was Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann, and those were the two must-see types of things. Now, why did I want to do sports growing up? I was a catcher in baseball. I used to talk to I used to talk to the batters and the umpire. I used to work the ump. I went to
Mhm.
Waukesha South High School, so that was where I was kind of doing some impressions and stuff back then. I didn't have the Morgan Freeman as an 18-year-old, and that's when I realized he was going to be just walking back to the dugout, which would have been great. He climbed through 500 yards of the fifth slop I can't even imagine, and now he has to walk back with his head hung low. Um, so I was in sport. How did I get that? So I was in sports growing up, baseball, AAU national champion, 14 and under, the Wisconsin All Stars, just so you know, in Urbandale, Iowa, the 18 and unders on the 18 and under team that won the national championship at the same time in Urbandale, Iowa. The Wisconsin Dukes, headlined by a player by the name of Craig Counsell. Don't know what happened to him since then, but was a fairly good player at the time. So sports wasn't my thing. I was going to play baseball at Parkside. Did I say I might have done it in reverse? I actually went to Parkside my freshman year, and I was going to play baseball, and then decided not to. And then I went to Wisconsin Milwaukee. So I don't know. I do. You'll find out during this that I make up a lot of stuff, and it just kind of proves that my recall of sports is not that good.
Even
So
your own.
yeah, see, I just kind of proved it on accident. My own biology, no, my own uh, biography is a struggle to get the timeline correct. So with Sports Center, one of the things I loved about Sports Center was the wittiness and the fun everybody seemed to be having. I know that's a tougher job than it does, but it is kind of a dream job. Which wasn't that the name of a show on ESPN, Dream
Mike
Job? Was that?
Hall. My man
Yeah,
Mike Hall won that.
yeah, yeah.
Mike
So,
Hall, by the way, also didn't want to be a Sports Center anchor. He wanted to be a guy on Second City and SNL. So he
oh,
came and
okay.
he was you in reverse. He didn't
What?
want the job. He wanted something else.
And that's great. I mean, that's actually great training for that type of that type of work. He did it the right way, apparently. So sports. What am I calling? I was a zero tool baseball player. So what was I going to do? I went to comedy sports while I was kind of going to school for broadcast journalism. I went there, learned some stuff, and while I was doing the comedy sports classes, they're like, "Have you ever tried stand up?" I'm like, "Are you asking that because I'm terrible at this improv stuff?" And they're like, "No, just the way you can do, some voices and impressions. We don't use that directly at time. We use the characters, but not so much the impressions. You should try stand up." Guy by the name of John Podlesnik, who is a comedy sports superhero and also a part of this troupe called Brady Street, got me to do stand up, and I started doing it, and never really looked back. I was out for a little bit. I tried it at the Comedy Cafe in Milwaukee, went over really well, and then I kind of disappeared for a while, got my degree, and then never used it. So that's kind of the story. So it was being in sports, messing around, liking sports and comedy together,
Mhm.
and then realizing sports activities were not for me, more talking about sports, but without remembering anything specific. And now you have me.
Yeah, that's actually
Which
me too, Frank. It's just not funny. You're funny, and I don't remember
Yeah.
sports. John will remind you of that for sure.
Well,
That's
my thing for you, for Trevor, is just be as serious as possible. And when you screw up, it'll be funny. The thing that I think people always try to do, like John's really good at this too. I think, John, your comedy comes from deadpan, overly serious. You're very serious when you're being funny. I mean, it's understated. Look at see, even that eyebrow raise was.
I don't
I don't
know.
know. I don't know about that. I'm not even trying to do that, nor do I want it. And did you just use nor as a conjunction properly? Yes, I was fairly good in English. So yeah, I mean that's kind of my my some of the funniest people in the world, like Will Ferrell. He's not. It's not like he's trying to be funny. He's just so serious that he
Mhm.
will repeat things until they become funny. That's there's repeaters in comedy. They're the people who say something, which is then they repeat it, which is uh, pretty simple to figure out. But when you watch Will Ferrell, sometimes he'll say something and you'll be like, that's kind of funny. Then he'll be like, that's not funny at all. He's just saying the same thing again. And then he keeps saying it and he beats it to the ground and then it is hilarious.
Mm.
And there are certain people who just have that where John, you have the ability to twist a phrase. And I mean, it's like it'll be almost talking. I mean, almost throw the punchline will come out of the side a little bit,
Mm.
like that type of thing.
All
And
I know is
Trevor,
I have an 84-year-old mother, a woman I've been married to for more than 25 years, and a 22-year-old daughter. Nobody thinks I'm funny in this house. So I don't. I have the world's toughest audience.
well, I would suggest you use commas better in that sentence.
Could be that.
That would be
Could be that.
maybe,
Could be punctuation.
maybe the pauses because I was where you going with the first two, and then I was
Could be
like,
the
oh,
punctuation.
this is a series of three. Um, So my family doesn't find me funny at all. They just cash the checks. Come on, that's what it
So
is.
how did you do that though, Frank? Because being funny in your backyard, in your home city, is really hard because you know people and people that know you will come in and I know him all the time. He's not that funny. Most people got to leave. You got to be funny and get your break here in Wisconsin.
Well, I mean, I was voted second funniest person at Waukesha South High
There's
School.
that.
So Kevin Hoops has the championship belt from the 1992 black shirt yearbook. So uh I don't know. I was a very quiet kid. Okay. So I was the type of kid who didn't, I wore collared shirts to school when everybody else was wearing t-shirts. I don't know why. I just did. I was pretty serious. And then about sixth grade, I had a couple of teachers. One teacher, Mr. Trentadue, was an over the top kind of guy. He drove in from Madison every day, or at least that's what he told us. And we were, we didn't have the internet back then, so we couldn't Google to see if he was lying to us or not. But he was over the top and funny, and you kind of he would have uh you could go back and forth with him and make fun of him a little bit. And that's where I started to get a little looser. And then by eighth grade, seventh, eighth grade, I was making fun of friends or having fun with friends, kind of doing impressions of them. I was always the kid in school. I was never the smartest here. I was like I remember being in first grade and being in the second best reading group. That was me all through history. Always second best type of thing. Never buy the new TV that comes out. Get last year's model. I was last year's model where you get a discount on it. So I kind of broke out of my shell a little bit there and had some fun. But I was always the kid in school that I understood if the teachers were not getting to everybody in the room, like if I don't know, if they would lose the class, I would ask questions just to try and get the class back on task
Mhm.
or on and I don't know why. And my parents would always go into teacher conferences and they'd say, Frank is such a leader. And they'd be like, how so? And they'd be he would guide the class and the teachers knew I was doing it. So I was paying attention most of the time. Senior year, I didn't pay any attention. I don't even remember what. I just copied my homework from somebody.
Mhm.
And I copied homework from somebody who was in a different class. And one teacher couldn't figure out why I was. Well, I called Clay and he had it. I thought he knew the assignment, but it turns out he was in a different class. And she's like, but this is the fourth time. I know. I just keep forgetting that he's in a different class, but there's just the internet hasn't been invented yet. So how would I know? And she's like, what's the internet? I'm like, you'll find out. It'll change cheating forever.
I don't even know where we are or how we're going to do this. And I can tell you right now, for those listening and watching, we're not taking any breaks. We are running this thing straight through with Frank Caliendo because I don't even want to blip this up. That's the whole point of getting to know these guys behind the scenes. All right, Jay, you go.
So how did, like, we know you now as this this household name. And I feel like the whole thing seemed to turn on John Madden.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's true or not. And if that is shorting the career, I get it, because every overnight success I've ever met was certainly 20 some odd years of grinding, or 15 years. But it seems like an unlikely guy to make this, to skyrocket your name that everybody knows. Where did Madden come from?
Well, first of all, to just the overnight success, you ever see that Norm Macdonald bit that he did on Star Search? He's like, it's like he's pretending to be Ed McMahon or whatever. These guys have been grinding it away for the last 30 years, playing bars and all sorts of stuff. Please welcome overnight success. So how did the bad thing? Well, I listen, sports is where I grew up. There was nobody really doing, and I never wanted to be a sports comedian. I just kind of pigeonholed myself into that in a way. I've never actually been that. It's just people, that's how they see me. But I did know sports. Like some kids know literature, some kids know movies growing up. I had the pop culture stuff too. But I just knew the rules of sports and I knew plays. I was the type of kid who would um we would get USA Today, and I'd go get the USA Today. I don't remember it was sitting there in the study hall or if I had to buy it or whatever. But just look at that rectangle kind of square, almost more of a little slightly rectangle in the bottom right hand corner in USA Today, and just look at batting averages and home runs. It was a day behind, but Andres Galarraga was always hitting 400 or close to, like midway through the season. So the sports thing was always ingrained in me. My dad was a minor league baseball player in the White Sox organization for a few years. He grew up in Chicago, but then went down to spring training a few times for the Sarasota Sun Sox. So sports was where it was at. So I like making people laugh. I was a fat kid, so it was that type of tension breaking type of thing. So knowing the sports, making people laugh. And then I think it's tied to the video game a little bit because John Madden became so big with the
Mhm.
video game, which people don't even know. Young kids don't even know that there's a guy named John Madden that the video game is based on. They just call it Madden, until Nicolas Cage stars in the movie as John Madden. um, so that I just started. I thought, what's something I could do? I was at University of Wisconsin Milwaukee, probably junior, senior year, somewhere around there. The Madden video game was out. Madden had commercials, so he was everywhere. Um, and I just started. It was Summerall. I actually started doing first. It was just the phrasings to the 20, to the 25. There's the flag on the play. And then the bit was John Madden would just explain the obvious. If the referee, if he throws the flag and he didn't make a mistake, then there's probably going to be a penalty. Thanks, John. So that was where that came from. And I go up on stage and just worked. It was one of those things that clicked. And then radio shows were always looking for something where they could do a voice in sports. Dan Patrick was doing call-ins
Mhm.
at the time. Uh, heard him. Mark Patrick, who was in Indianapolis, heard him. And then I went to Bob and Tom over there in Indianapolis, and Mark Patrick was there, and he saw me and he goes, "You're the guy who does the Madden. Hold on a second." He goes into the room because he'd always do call-ins he'd do like Marge Shot or impressions,
Mhm.
goofy stuff like that. Who was the owner of the Cincinnati Reds. And it was a caricature, but he had me call in from the other room to Bob and Tom. And I started doing the John Madden. It was up here at the time. That was John Madden was the voice hadn't really come down to the real John. I started doing it, and they start looking in like, who's doing that? And they immediately was like Carson waving
Mhm.
a comedian over to sit down on the chair. And I just you know those things when you're in front of audiences. It's different today than it was back then. Now you can do very specific impressions for people. A lot of times you had to find an impression when you were doing stand up and there was no internet to share everything, you had to do stuff broad enough for the entire audience to get it.
Mhm.
Well, now you can do stuff very specific on the internet, and people will pass it around to everybody who loves that character or whatever you're doing. And then you will build an audience of people who are fans of that. And then they will come out to see you. So it's the opposite. You don't have, it's actually, in a lot of ways, not good to play broad on the internet. Or if you do play broadly,
Mm.
you also want to do things that are specific to hit audience. Like who doesn't there's thousands of Christopher Walkens. I'm sorry. I know. Is it low? Is it high? But there's tons of Christopher Walkens. But is there something you do that's very specific that then gets passed around to people like, oh, the nuance to that is incredible. So they become fans based on that, based on things that you know,
Mhm.
30 years ago, nobody would even have paid attention. They're like, it's just not for network executives would have been like, it's too small of an audience. You're never gonna. Well, now you can get everywhere. And think about this podcast. The thing about a podcast, I always radio people who don't adapt. What was that? Like the high school kid from The Simpsons. Um, the difference is a podcast can go all around the world. I mean,
Mhm.
you're not talking about local stuff. You're talking broadly, but about maybe a specific type. But you're not talking about localities. You're not talking about a local area. So when a morning radio show does a podcast, the key to the morning radio show is usually being local and people having similar experiences. And then when you put that to podcast, it doesn't translate to the world. Um, because you are just talking about a specific city and things going on there. But when you do a podcast and it's based on going out, all to everybody, the like-minded people who know that topic will go. Like, I mean, for example, your podcast about Wisconsin. So it's in general, people from Wisconsin
We
are going to care more, I think,
Mhm.
probably.
Yeah, that's right.
But surrounding, I mean, you're going to get Illinois, you're going to get Indiana, you're going to get some people around as well, or people looking for information or stuff that's key to Wisconsin, like a kid writing a paper that wants to cite a really bad source like me.
well, we kind of think we make the Beloit to Crivets Onalaska triangle, and we kind of try to win that market. And we know that if we get that, everybody else will probably be pulled in.
The the Bermuda Triangle
Yeah,
of the Bermuda Shorts Triangle during the
the
summer.
I had somebody tell me one time when we were talking about the magic of Madden just in general, right? What his thing was. And it's funny because he and you do obviously Jon Gruden as well, but they're the exact same guy in that they can tell you the most obvious thing, but with this wonderment that they
Yeah.
have that you sound like you're hearing it for the first time. Like you said, like you could just jump off sides and he can tell you it's worth 5 yards. And you all know that. And yet the way those two guys tell it, you're fascinated in how that is.
I did a sketch that's kind of based on that with Gruden, and he was a teacher. He was a high school teacher. He's like, did you ever hear the American Revolution? You ever hear of that, man? That's incredible stuff right there. It's unbelievable. You ever hear of these guys?" And just going different history things and throughout history. Did you ever hear of Paul Revere, man? I tell you what, one if by land, two if by sea. I tell you what, man. These guys weren't even covering their mouths at the time with the play sheets. I mean, they're going right at it. So Yeah, there is that amazing ability to explain. My joke with John Madden was he was the master of the obvious. He'd tell you things you already know. He's if the quarterback, if he throws the ball in the receiver, if he catches it in the end zone, then that's gonna be a touchdown. And even my mom, who's never watched football in her entire life, she's just sitting there going, no duh. So um it is that ability to explain, because I don't think people understand the difficulty of doing play by play and color analysis. Um, you have to say the same stuff a lot, and you
Mhm.
have to be able to forget or just dismiss the fact that you've said it. You have to explain things. You're going to get ripped by people nowadays because there's recordings of everything and you can see everything constantly, but you have to assume that the audience doesn't know as much as, or the average
Mhm.
audience doesn't know as much as the super fan. So you have to over explain at times, and Madden was great at that. I mean, he really would explain things for everybody, but he was doing it in such a caricature type of way that it even became okay for people who didn't, who watched all the time.
Mhm.
So, Frank, we've gotten to know Pete Lee pretty well. Wisconsin comedian, Janesville, making a name for himself across the country. And he runs his deal, his stand-up, late into the night. And he's a late night guy. You're the only comedian I've ever met that's the opposite. You're an early morning guy because you love that morning radio stuff. How did you make that determination? You talked a little bit about it, where actually I need to be up in the morning and doing late night.
Well, I don't love to get up. I just, it's not, I didn't want to be in there. I just knew that was the way to make it work and
Mhm.
move the tickets. Especially, it's different now. It's not quite the same, but it was a necessary part of the job, is to get up. And I was I'm perfect for radio. We just do these voices and theater of the mind type of stuff. Um, so I knew that was going to be the way to move the tickets, and I had fun. I mean, part of doing radio, morning radio, especially when you're there, is you bounce stuff off of each other, and a lot of times they're very creative people, and the bit will expand as you're doing. I can also test to see if the voice is decent or not. You don't have to have the greatest impression in the world to make a bit work. I mean, if the bit's funny, that's all you
Mhm.
really need. You can have a lesser impression. Now, if you don't have a if you have a great impression and a great bit, well, now you're on top of the world. But you can have a great impression that you don't do much with, and people are like, for the first 3 seconds, that's incredible, man. And then you're kind of like, after a little while, like, what's next? But I do think, to go back to what you were talking about before, the sports. There weren't a lot of people doing sports type of comedy. Now there are podcasts that are dedicated directly to it. There's all types of stuff, but
Mhm.
at the time there wasn't anybody on stage doing a John Madden impression, so that took off. And I go city to city, and then you go and sit in live, and people like, and then I knew the business because I went to school for broadcast journalism. So understanding the behind the scenes and the different um, departments of a radio station, and knowing a little bit about microphones and all the 30 years ago, 25 years ago, people are like, how do you know this much? I'm like, well, I went to school for it. And they're like, really, man, I've been on the air for 20 years. I never went to school for it. I'm like, I know, but it's helping me right now. So, um,
No.
uh, but I mean, to me,
Mhm.
it's for me, the comedy is easiest to flow into stuff, and I do have a little bit of that myself, where I'm kind of amazed by the average at times. Maybe it's because that's what I'm always striving for. But there's, yeah, the people in sports, it's like I said, it's hard. I mean, to do something different. I mean, Romo's going to get excited. Oh, Jim, what are we doing? What's going to happen here, Jim? Oh, here we go, Jim. Um, there, if you have a character, and it's basically a bigger version of yourself that works. When people try to be somebody else, I think that's when they struggle. But if you can just be yourself unapologetically, that's what people find as fun in not just sports but in comedy too.
So this is going to be a total nerd question, but I on the mechanics of this thing, right? So right now I have all these early broadcast students, and I'm trying to get them to understand that, like, the only instrument they have when they go to do this is their voice, right? We can't call up the woodwinds, we can't call up the brass section. This is what you have, so we have to breathe and do this stuff. But the first thing I always ask them is, do you like the sound of your voice? And they all say the same thing, right? No, it's terrible. I'd never heard it before. And then I say, tough, that's how you sound to us, and we're stuck with it, and you are too. But everybody's voice, when they hear it the first time from tape, sounds so different. So I'm trying to figure out how, when you clock these impressions, how do you know that it sounds right? Because, right, what I hear in my head right now doesn't sound the same when I play it back. How do you, the mechanics of
Well,
dialing it in so
yeah,
you sound
you have to the reality is it's just repetition and do it over and
That's a
over and
boring
over.
answer. I will need a different. I'm going to need a better answer.
Well, it's magic.
Okay, thanks. Perfect.
John, a lot of people. So here's how I describe it. People will think I can do any impression in the world. That's not true. First of all, I say it's the difference between magic and sorcery. They go, "What's that difference?" I go, "Magic is a skill.
Mm-hmm.
Table magic, you have to do something over and over and over, repetition, till you get to the point where people don't see what's actually happening. Sorcery does not exist. So you have to go with magic, and you have to continually do something and work it over and over and over. I still hold this. I believe people can do it. People are like, how do you do that, Morgan Freeman? I could never do it. I'm like, well, you could get close. You then there's people that do it better than me, and you could probably get close to it. But you just have to first. You have to bring your voice all the way down. So you have to get in the right register, right? If you're going to do maybe
Mm-hmm.
not current Morgan Freeman, that's a little bit older, but if you're going to do the Morgan Freeman everybody thinks of, Shawshank, you have to get down here. You have to get that, and you have to talk from this part of your you have to get your throat involved and a rumble. Remember in Wolf of Wall Street where Matthew McConaughey does a that thing right in there, right in there. He actually brings his voice down he relaxes to be able to get his voice down to get there. So, and the only way you can do that is be very quiet. It's almost like a muscle. You have to build it back up. But if you get down here, test one, test, testing 1, 2, 3, and now you start to find the tone of it. This is 8 months to a year of just work probably for a person, and you go. Fact of the matter is, truth is, you say it over and over and over until you can talk like this in different ways. You apply it to different words and sentences. And then you play with it. Ah, yes. That was actually what I really started with was ah, yes, ah, yes. You can start with it just low. Ah, yes, ah, yes. That's you're thinking of a deep register voice, maybe not Morgan Freeman. Ah, yes, ah, yes, ah, yes. Now I tried to find I'm at the doctor. And I got into Jeff Goldblum. Ooh, went too high. Uh, but so you do that over and over, then you find a phrase, ah yes, truth is, fact of the matter is. And now you take a line from a movie, that's when he climbed through 500 yards of the fifth slop, I can't even imagine. And then you say they think things over and over and over till you get that point. So how do it's record it, play it back. That's the only way you're going to hear it is if you do it over and over and over. Because I think I'm much more specific with the voice in my head. And I listen to it back. I'm like, ooh, I'm not hitting the R the way I hear it in my head. In my head, that's really, I'm really breaking it off for a person's own personal dialect. But I hear it out there. I'm like, or that's too whispery. It's not good. So it's and then it's people's reaction. A lot of times you're not doing an impression of what a person actually sounds like. You're doing what people think the person sounds
Sure.
like. And that's just as important because there are impressions I could do that it's the person talking and it's not as funny as their caricature that they play of themselves as a character in a movie.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the mimic and all those other things that come through. We
Where
had
do
said
you teach, John? Where do you teach, John?
at the University of Missouri.
Oh, okay. I
You're
didn't
welcome
realize that.
anytime to come.
Oh.
That'd be great. We'll take it. We're going to teach a new sports broadcasting class in the spring. So you know, if you feel like
Really?
things undone there,
Oh,
well,
if I'm in that area and I open up with your dad probably loved me.
exactly. So I think I may have told on this show before. If not, you and I had met once before in the workout room in at a hotel in Burbank when I was doing Wipeout. And you told me something that has always stuck with me. I would love for you to elaborate. And you said, what I love about ESPN is it's like this Simpsons type show of just characters that are just this wealth of people that are around. And you could, you know, like kind of this endless group. Tell me
It's
more
got its
about
own world.
Yeah.
ESPN has its own world. And what made me think of that was that Simpsons poster with everybody on it.
Mhm.
All the characters spread out throughout, and you see them in Springfield and doing something. But it's a poster with every character. And when I was at Fox, it was a little bit different because I would go outside of the Fox stuff to do. It was Dr. Phil on
Mhm.
talking about football. It was Al Pacino doing that stuff. Did not work at ESPN. What worked at ESPN was making fun of the ESPN's own world. So what I found is people have their characters. Mel Kiper Jr. is going to disagree with everything. Even he's nodding no as soon as somebody else is talking. It's you're just waiting for to go. I don't think that's even close to what we're talking about right now. Tremendous situation. I've been told that I have to respect what you're saying, but I think it's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my entire life. So he would never say that, but that's why I think it's fake. But Mel's not even like that in person. I mean, when you meet Mel Kiper Jr., you're like, who are you? Like he takes the glasses off. It's reverse Superman. He's this different guy. He's like super nice, sweet. He's got this like you think that guy just lives in a dungeon by himself. He has the most beautiful wife, the most beautiful daughter. You're going, this is no way. If nobody would even believe this. This is like a sitcom. That's what this is. This
Right.
is King of Queens, where Mel is, playing that character. So it's like I don't even know, but ESPN, what they call it there is, the car wash. When you come
Mhm.
in to do, promote something, they can put you on 40 different shows. Everybody wants you because they want to do something different than they've been doing for the past 20 years straight.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we can have this person. Oh, yeah, let's do something new. We'll figure out a way to work you into this. So everybody knows that it's a self-contained world. So there was this realization of stuff doesn't work on the outside. So I'm just going to do voices on ESPN and characters mostly of people from ESPN. I'm not going to try and bring pop culture people into sports as much as I'm going to try and bring Adam Schefter to light. How am I
Mhm.
going to, according to my sources, at this particular time, it appears there is a slight possibility he's hedging everything. Like he does not want to get sued or yelled at by the boss. He's like, we are looking at a possible situation that if you were in this moment, in time, in this universe, you would understand there is a definite possibility that we will see Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, going, what? Get to the point. But he doesn't want to.
Oh.
He's been attacked so many times for saying something that could be taken more than one way. He's going to be very specific with it. I mean, that's something in your sports broadcasting class, John, that you even have to think about. That today's day and age, it's very different than what was going on. Uh,
Mhm.
I think of Anchorman characters, sports on
Right.
Anchorman. You think of how sports was thought of as to what you have to be, and it's business. I mean, it's all
Mhm.
you have to think of business. How can you be interesting and funny within the confines of advertising? That's another difficult thing there. I mean, so. Uh, how do you put it all together? Magic.
There you
Magic.
go. Can I get a little Stephen A?
I understand where you're coming from with some of these things. I worked with John Anderson for many years. I saw him on the treadmill, and let me say this: I've never seen a man gallop at that level. When I first met Stephen A, it was actually he was in between. He was at ESPN maybe it was doing some cold pizza at the time, which is what
Mhm.
became First Take later. I don't remember, but it was something wasn't working, or he wanted a bigger contract. I mean, that was one of the things at ESPN too, as you find out over the years. There are certain people at ESPN that wanted personalities, but what they didn't want was a personality so big that they had to pay them as a personality.
Right.
That was the thinking at a certain time. And Sports Center was great because of the personalities, but they didn't really see that. They saw the sports highlights at the time was so important because it was only one place you could go and see sports highlights everywhere, and know you were going to see it. Well, now as soon as something happens, it's a highlight on your phone immediately. Well, now I need to have a reason to tune into Sports Center. Who's doing Sports Center? People have to care about it again.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaines Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, and North Star Mohican Casino Resort.
Boy, it was weird, J.A. The Packer season started with 2 home games, and now we don't see those guys for like 6 weeks or something like that. It's weird. I think what I mean by that is
NFL schedule, but it is it's like, and I get that every time I show my age, you make fun of me, much like I make fun of you when you show your right. Like I'm like, okay, Packer games are noon on Sunday, right? I don't get it unless we pray and we get one game on Monday Night Football because that who's coming to Green Bay, and it'd always be on the road because apparently the lights at Lambeau weren't good enough. The world's changed, right? They're there. Everything's prime time. Here's Thursday. We play Sunday nights, Thursday nights. Here's Monday nights. Right. And like you get a noon on Sunday. You're like, wow, this is a dog game.
Right.
Which
Murphy
is all
said
I'm
that.
saying is, pardon me?
Murphy said that at a shareholder meeting one time. He's like, we don't have noon games because we don't suck. And this is the most noon games we've ever had this year.
Well, listen, you lose to Cleveland, maybe that raises the saccage factor a little bit. But right, I think we have the Bengals at home. Is that the next one?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and then they're away for another week or two.
I will say this: one of my dear friends from ESPN, a director that I worked with forever, is going. He's a huge Packer fan. Grew up on the Packers, even though he's from California. So he's going to the game, and you will love him because his favorite thing to say to me, and always has been, Anderson, you're good in small doses. So there's your guy. You can quote that as often as you want. It's one of my favorite things. Every once in a while, he'll just, I'll just get, I'll say something, or he'll just send me out of the blue. Small doses.
Small doses. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. Good guy.
Well, I brought up the early games because my Miller Lite doesn't freeze. It was nice to actually be at Lambeau Field for a few home games in the beginning of the season with actual Miller Lite that I can hang on to for a minute without it blowing up in my hand. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. I like that. I feel like sometimes late November, December games are perfect because now it doesn't chill either, right? Also we don't want it to explode, but we also don't want it to be room temperature by the time we, get to the gate.
And beer freezes, though. I mean, like January games, that it doesn't ask questions. If you don't drink it fast, which I've never had a problem with responsibly.
I want to know for you, like, let's say your tailgate is in that parking lot. Okay. Pick somewhere over by the pavilion. Sure. Can you go, okay, let's get one more because I can get that thing knocked out by the time I get to the AmFam gate. Right? What do you need? Like 100 yards to knock one out? What do you need? You can get 2 done?
Yeah, I get. So that's how I do it. It's so funny because we tailgate right where you're saying. And before we go, usually when the fireworks go off that tell you got an hour to go in, I will grab 2 Miller Lights and I will start my trek to the AmFam gate. I usually have one gone by the time we reach the other side of the Johnsonville tailgate village, and I'm finishing the last one because I always chuck it in the dumpster right at the gate as we walk in. 2 12-ounces. Is that bad? I don't think that's bad.
No, I just wondered. I just feel like I thought of that and I'm like, you know what? I bet you, right? And because we were, I went to the Mizzou game this past weekend and I had Lilwood and I'm like, okay, we got to, I got to get this thing knocked out before I get to the gate. And, it just was one long last pull before we got it done. I just figure, I bet you can do some damage in that walk from wherever you are to that gate.
The problem is I do that and go, all right, we're not going to buy beers in the stadium, right? Because that's the whole plan. Let's get in, get out, and that never happens ever. This firsthand. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Inside Wisconsin to find options near you, or you can pretty much pick up Miller Lite anywhere they sell beer. It's Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. John, you go lightning round.
Okay. Are you a Packers season? Do you own Packers stock?
No. Do you have some?
I can get you some if you want. Absolutely. Have you ever done ventriloquism?
Yeah, I had a Edgar Bergen, Charlie McCarthy album, 33, and yeah. Hey folks, John Madden here, and I am doing ventriloquism right now.
That is fantastic.
You got to work on the beats.
Better John Anderson, me or the linebacker from Waukesha South?
Oh yeah, he was in the trophy case. Not him personally, but a picture of him was. Yeah, I'm going you because you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good.
Very good.
So we recognize you from Madden or from you said a Morgan Freeman, but can you do like just a generic Grabowski from Waukesha?
Oh yeah, I could probably do some of that. Yeah, I mean it's just slight O in there that they don't. It's more of a Germantown. I remember going back years ago and hearing people, and it's like, oh, I'm like, what the heck? What did I have that? Oh, it's not the Minnesota Fargo, but there's an there's a W at the end of it. Oh.
Do you have a favorite polka band or know anyone who plays an accordion?
Oh, my mom used to play the accordion. She's a little bit older now, but she could probably poke it up. But yeah, she was an accordion player, so I do. Yeah.
You're not a drinker. Why? Because that seems dumb. You can't really be.
I just like to be in control of myself.
Yeah.
That's all. That's the only. Because if I didn't have control of this, look at the problems I could have caused.
There you go. Of all the impressions you do, which guy would you like to take with you to Vegas for a weekend?
Oh, let's see. Of all the impressions I do, I mean, I've been to Vegas with Gruden watching Aerosmith, and I'll tell you what, man, dude looks like a lady, man. Let's see. I think Morgan Freeman would be fun, just because if he would play along and just narrate stuff, and that's when Frank realized I was not going to do everything he asked me to.
I've seen some of the ping pong videos. One, amazing.
Yes.
And two, how's the knee? I always see you have a knee sleeve on. I was worried.
I tore my ACL in a scrimmage. Freshman at Horning Middle School, went up and played the sophomores at Waukesha South. I was a running back. I ran out to the side. There was a sweep. I got hit high and low at the same time. ACL torn. Scoped out by Dr. Mirko, who is still working, and was helping my mom the other day. So I'm missing, like, this is Sean Elliott time in the world where everybody had the big knee brace.
Sure.
Like that lineman wear. Everybody was wearing those type of things. So I had that. Google Sean Elliott and knee brace, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But I only have 25% of my ACL, maybe less than that. So I'm a warrior, is what I'm saying. But I only have like 20%, maybe 10% of the cartilage in that knee. So you can hear it do this. But I'm tough. I spit on it, and that's what my dad said: spit on it and just go. So
perfect.
Yeah.
On the way out, this is, I don't know of what people ask you to do with their favorite person, but if you are in the newsroom that I was in for 25 years, the most repeated Frank Caliendo impression part is you talking to McShay. So can you give me a Todd on the way out? Because that happens once a show, somebody busted that out.
That
was our favorite thing.
And I did not even have that. I didn't even have that impression until we shot it. And I was, am I going to go Todd or McShay? And we were going back and forth with the producer, And he's like, I like Todd. I'm like, I think you're right. I think I'm gonna go Todd. And then I just started, and we had the actual McShay in there. I remember doing the sketch because the WNBA draft was going on behind us. We were so unimportant that we were like shifted to the side and were in somebody else's studio. And then that took over the draft that year. They played it, and they didn't tell anybody it was a sketch. And Roflo, Robert Flores, cuts to it, and people are hearing us talk about this ridiculous stuff. And if you weren't in there, you didn't see it sounded like Mel Kiper Jr. was actually going off on coffee, and they played it like 30 times that weekend, and it was huge. It just went. I was on a plane coming back from Florida or something, and I got back, and my Twitter was like going crazy. I'm like, what happened? But that was the genesis. I thought you were talking about the fact that everybody at ESPN does a Chris Berman, and it's not even my Chris Berman. It's like the secret is there. Everybody is
Yeah.
Everybody's walking around going, say what you will, but no, yeah.
Doesn't have to have a word, right? That's the thing.
No.
You don't need a word. Like
No.
what is the whole thing?
Mine is when it gets going, it becomes jazz scat. Then if you really get going, it's Super Mario.
All I know is that if we're in the newsroom and you ask somebody's name twice, you're trying to get their attention. Evan, Totten, and then it just becomes Todd.
Imagine being a person that works in a cubicle in an office, not into sports, and there's a sports bro that walks by you every day going, Todd.
Oh, it's fantastic. As were you, man. I wish we had 2 hours. It's so much fun. Thanks so much.
Don't worry, guys. I packed 2 hours into this hour, so we're good.
It's great. I hope we get in a gym again so that we can see each other and you can go, wow, that's at 60, it still holds up. At 45, he was a gazelle. And at 50, actually, or 60, actually, the lion's going to get him and take him down. Thanks so much for your time, Frank.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
We want you to do a whole lot more than just save money. We want your money to grow, just like your dreams. We want you to achieve financial well-being and the feelings that go along with that. Capital Credit Union, doing the right thing.
We weren't even started yet, and I could feel my cheeks like doing the whole "this is going to be painful" thing. The guy is so authentically funny. That's what I love about him.
Plus, you're an easy mark.
That's fair.
So you're a good audience, which is nice to have. So I had no idea that he was, the sports broadcasting thing and wanted to be, a sports center guy. That's great. What I really loved is, and he slipped it in there. I don't know if you heard about when he talked about the Big Show. Right?
Yeah, I did hear that.
Right. So you might not be on it. That Dan and Keith Olbermann, that's what they used to call it, the Big Show. Yeah. And on a fascinating story about that. And it was the thing on Sunday night, and it became this cultural phenomenon. It blew up. Here's the Big Show. Well, they called it the Big Show and the Big Show. And he also mentioned their John Walsh, who was kind of the founder, creator, nurturer of SportsCenter as we know it. So John used to get so mad at him because they called it the Big Show. And he's like, the name of the show is SportsCenter. You need to call it SportsCenter. And he would on him and he'd bring him in the office. And John was not prone to yelling or but he'd be, my God, SportsCenter. It's called SportsCenter. Quit with this Big Show BS. Call it SportsCenter. So then in mocking John, they'd go to these breaks and they'd they'd say, but we'll be back. And then they'd go, and this is SportsCenter. And that's how the This is SportsCenter campaign came to be with all the commercials, is because they literally mocked him and made fun of him and were so tired of getting into the office for being the Big Show. So then they made this grand production of, here it is, and this is SportsCenter. And that's how the This is SportsCenter ad campaign came about with all the athletes, because those two jokers said the name of the show in a way. So that for all those great commercials, it's literally because one guy was yelling at him to quit calling the Big Show, and they just exaggerated it. And then lo and behold, there's one of the great ad campaigns ever, Wyden Kennedy. this is SportsCenter because
It was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting that Frank said that SportsCenter was all about the personalities, and it needed to be until ESPN realized it was all about the personalities and they had to pay the personalities. Funny how that's come full circle. John, Wisconsin tales never cease to amaze me. What's the next one?
So I don't know. So you tell me again what radio network you were. What's the station you were in?
So it's starting this week on the Fan in Milwaukee, 1250 AM and 105.7 FM. But eventually it's going to grow to WNFL here in Green Bay at some point in October, and then we'll see what else.
So, which I think is wonderful. Like, I think of all the places that would love to have those call letters too, right? WNFL.
Seriously.
Right? Like, how about the NFL would love to have those brought back? Maybe. So I'm going to tell you, I was on, so it's not till October, but I was on WNFL before you. I had a run one morning, in high school. So they used to have whoever the drive time people were on, and they always had a trivia question every morning. Okay. And they gave away the guys' names. I can't think of it. Whoever the shows were, formal bowling shirts, right? That's back when it was really funny. Here's a t-shirt or a bowling shirt kind of thing with the tuxedo, awesome. The formal bowling shirt. So people killed to try to get the WNFL formal bowling shirt for these guys. And they'd ask it every morning. And it was kind of a thing between me and a guy named Jim Strasburger, who was a year behind me. God bless Strauss. I think Strauss played some basketball at St. Norbert's. And the cross-country coach at Green Bay Southwest High, Dave Moore. So the three of us all would try to see who could get on first off and then answer the trivia question. And you know how it is, right? We'll take the fourth caller. We'll take the 20th caller, 20%. So Strauss had a pretty good run. And then when he'd get on, he'd cheat, right? Because they'd be like, name 4 of the 8 vegetables from V8. And he'd go, well, hang on, let me think. And you could tell he was walking to the refrigerator, right? And that's when the phone was in the wall. So you knew he was stretching the cord, and he'd be like, well, there's tomatoes. And he's looking, now you can see he's looking at the can, and he'd be like, carrots. And then when you knew he was cheating, because he'd go like, and water chest. And they'd be like, you're right. And like, what do you mean? What do you have, Chinese food there? Anyway, the Strauss would cheat when he got it. He'd win, but he was always a gross cheater. Mr. Moore was always good. So the one day I get called, boom, you're on. Here it is. And, oh my gosh, here's my moment. And my question is about track and field.
Oh, perfect.
I'm golden.
Yeah.
Better yet, it's about the high jump. Right? I'm going to walk.
This is what you do.
This is my thing. Right? So they said, the question is, which musical artist was a high jumper that had to forego his spot in the Olympic trials, the 1956 Olympic trials? This recording artist skipped the Olympic trials in the high jump in 1956 to go to New York and record his first recording for Capitol Records. Okay. And now I'm like, okay, I know some stuff. I could have told you John Thomas was 7 foot. I did not know the recording artist who gave up his shot at the Olympic trials and a chance to go to Melbourne for the Olympics so he could get his first recording contract. So I say Ray Charles. Because I thought if you can't win, try to be funny.
It worked.
So, yeah. So it turns out Ray Charles was the wrong answer. But at least they chuckled. And the correct answer, if people want to know which famous recording artist, was a great high jumper, was Johnny Mathis.
Oh, wow.
So Johnny Mathis, who was 5'7", jumped 6'5.5". And the only guy better than him in the state of California at that time, he was at San Francisco City College, was a guy who played basketball over at San Francisco by the name of Bill Russell.
Oh, jeez.
They were 1-2 in the state of California. And probably if Bill wouldn't have played in the, devoted to basketball, he was a world-class high jumper at the time. The world record was probably about 6'7.5", 6'8" at then. And these guys were jumping 6'5". It's amazing. But Bill Russell at least was 7 foot. Johnny Mathis was 5'7". and he jumped 6'5.5", which is really into sawdust pits. And they did the old, kind of straddle to get over. It was remarkable. But so I was on WNFL. I blew a trivia question that I should have known because it was track and field and the high jump. And in case everybody that ever comes up again, don't guess Ray Charles. That's not who it is.
But boy, was it funny. Well, thanks for paving the way on WNFL for me. I appreciate it.
I've done a lot for you, Trev. I can't tell you how I've greased the skids. Nobody will ever truly know all the things that we've done, but I'm just hanging out having fun. I have nothing to do with any of this, dude.
Yeah, you do. You have a lot to do with it, but I appreciate that. That's always the way you've been, is humble and kind. It came up in conversation how you and I met the other day, so we'll use this as we close out this podcast. Somebody said, hey, did you just pick up the phone and call John and ask him to do the podcast out of the whim? And I'm like, yeah, about 15 years or 10 years after I first met him. Yeah. But that's how it came out. Hey, you want to do this? Yeah, we'll see if ESPN lets me, but yeah, let's do it.
We're old Northwoods League colleagues.
Yeah. Crazy. Bobbleheads to prove it. I think it's right up there. All right, buddy. I appreciate you. Yeah, you're up here.
There you go.
Yeah, it's right there. And it's signed and everything. I'll never forget this.
I noticed that I'm up there. I like to see that I'm literally one shelf up from Euchre and Hank Aaron. And I don't know. I feel like maybe I should be on the bottom shelf.
And one shelf down. That's you here.
Okay, good. I'm bracketing them.
This was funny. I think you signed these bobbleheads for about 7.5 hours straight. And you're like, hey, Trev, what happened to I'm going to sign for 45 minutes. And I was like, whoop, forgot. Sorry.
These things happen. Very popular.
Yeah, these things happen. All right. For John, I am Trevor. We will see you next time here in the pod.
Shut up and sit down.